Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of Zodipaws and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and today I'm excited to welcome Michael Schneider, founder of Pilots to the Rescue, which is celebrating 10 years of life-saving rescue flights. What began with a single mission that gave Michael a sense of purpose he'd never felt before has grown into a nationwide network of volunteer pilots flying animals from risk to safety. Michael made the leap from corporate events career to running Pilots to the Rescue full-time during the pandemic, all while navigating profound personal losses and raising 4 young boys. His story is a powerful blend of passion, purpose, and resilience. Michael, thank you for joining me on Tales of Resilience. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Jolene. That was a great summary.
Oh, great. I do my research. I try and get prepared. So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, I like to begin with just really getting an introduction into the work that you're doing at Pilots to the Rescue. Just giving people an overview of what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Well, I started Pilots to the Rescue 10 years ago in 2015 to combine my love of aviation and rescuing animals. And my connection with animals started at a very young age. My family, we always went to the local SPCA and we adopted dogs and cats. That's all I ever knew at that age. I didn't even know anything about full breed animals that you could purchase them. I just thought you went someplace and you picked out the sad pup, dog or cat.
Yeah.
So I did turn that into also a business. I've been an entrepreneur since I'm a little kid, and as early as like 11 years old, I was walking people's dogs and going into their homes and feeding cats. And my neighbor had a fenced-in pen that he wasn't using. I would put dogs there. Also, I was the kid in the neighborhood picking up the bird that had a damaged wing and trying to nurse it back to health. And I've had every animal you could think of, hermit crabs, gerbils, hamsters. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, some of our hamsters got into the walls of our house. And I remember my father like poking holes in the walls to try to get them out. And at a certain point, he says, well, I think we're going to have to get another cat. So that was his solution. So we adopted another cat. But anyway, I turned that business into a thriving pet sitting business at a young age, and that always had a connection with animals. The aviation part came from skydiving. I was living in Cincinnati at the time, and this woman that I was dating asked if I wanted to go skydiving for my birthday, and I had never been. Sounded really exciting. And that was my first introduction to general aviation because up until that point, like so many people, I only knew going on a big jet with Delta or United or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go skydiving, it's typically a little Cessna with the seats taken out. You have some person strapped to your back, but you get to experience all those new sensations you're not used to, the vibrations, the sound, seeing the flight deck, the single pilot, all the instrumentation. And I became enamored by that and very inquisitive. And I asked questions of the pilot. He encouraged me to take a discovery flight. I signed up for lessons immediately. When I got back to New York, I heard about people giving back with their license that they worked so hard to achieve by transporting terminally ill patients. Those are called angel flights, transporting organs or blood. I also heard about people that were transporting animals that were at risk. So, of course, I gravitated towards that. And I started a charity really because I wanted to get into an aircraft I couldn't afford. A lot of the planes that pilots have access to are really small. And because of insurance, they just don't have these larger planes on there. Insurance companies get nervous when you have more seats in the plane because it's more people to insure. So I raised money, we purchased our larger plane, and I was off to the races. So that was 10 years ago.
That's
Uh,
awesome. That's a great evolution into what you're doing right now.
hmm
Side note, I got to do a discovery flight this year and it was a lot of fun. So
Ah,
I can
but
see how you get pulled into it. It is very cool.
no lessons for you though, not signing up.
Not at this point, but you never know. I mean, I get asked that question a lot, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I have enough. I make enough problems for myself. So yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, good on you for taking at least that first step.
Totally. Okay, so obviously animals have been a lifelong passion for you.
Mm.
Yeah. And what was the process of, so I hear you raised money and you were able to get this plane. But what was that process like for you to even just get this process going of, I'm guessing you had to find places to partner with and
Mhm.
determining like where you're taking these animals? Like, how does that work?
Well, there is no shortage of animals that need to be rescued. It is certainly a sobering statistic that they're still euthanizing nearly 1 million animals in this country, dogs and cats. Um, So lots of animals to send, not as many to receive. Fortunately, up here in the Northeast, we are typically the recipient of a lot of these animals, adoptable animals. And being that we're situated in the New York metro area, that works well. So we're always going down south and bringing them back up for the most part. It just started with making phone calls and emails, going to the various websites, reaching out to shelter directors, asking if they need help with transport, and they jumped at the chance to take advantage of this awesome resource, and notably the aircraft. It cuts down on the time that it takes to transport, the stress on the animals, and there a lot of people are also doing this work on the ground. We actually have 6 ground transport vans,
Okay.
which are a great way to mitigate aviation costs and also extend our range.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, to start up an organization like this, it took a lot of enrolling and registering people and the power of transportation. But it's something that's very needed. These shelters that are in these rural areas in the South, they sometimes have animals to send, but have no way to get them to where they need to go. So that's sort of where we come in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I saw on a somewhat recent post of yours that you had transported 34 dogs at one point, or maybe in a couple rounds, or what, how many dogs can you transport at a time? And how often are you running these flights?
hmm Well, I have the record in the plane. I've done 72.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it really depends on the size of the crate. All those games of Tetris as a kid paid off because it's really, really about how you configure the cabin of the plane. It's a 10-passenger plane. We take 8 of the rear seats out, and then you play that game of Tetris. Typically, if the dog's over 80 pounds, we'll tether them just because the crate is so massive. It's space prohibitive.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we could do anywhere from 20 to 100 animals. It really just depends. Obviously, cats and puppies, you can fit quite a few. And then when you get into the 60, 80 pound, it cuts down quite a bit on the aircraft. Yeah, ground transport, obviously. I mean, we use these custom Sprinter vans. They're hu huge compared to the plane. So
Okay.
you could do way more than that.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, I mean, you might know this number, but over the 10 years that you have been doing this work, do you know how many animals you've transported?
We're rapidly approaching 6,000.
6,000.
But remember, I've only been doing this full time since 2021, even though I started the organization in 15. But this year we exceeded 2,000 this year alone.
That's
So
amazing.
I feel like we're just getting started. Just I was employee number one starting in 2021. And this year, I just hired 2 more employees. It's grown beyond my wildest imagination, and we have 6 vans and a plane. Our plans are to have 2 planes and 10 vans in the next couple of years, which is quite a fleet, and it requires a team to enable these transports. It's a lot of work. Um, so. yeah, we have high hopes in helping, assisting in transporting these animals, and I'm sure our goal next year will be, 2,500 to 3,000.
Wow.
And we're just scratching the surface with the number of animals that we're rescuing. When you hear numbers like a million a year, but what we also do extremely well is we're good at creating a story and creating awareness about this problem we have.
Mhm.
As you can imagine, a plane gets a lot of attention. We don't have any trouble getting press to come when you're loading or unloading animals in a plane because you just don't hear about it that often. So, and we bring a lot of content producers and influencers with us. Recently, we had an influencer on board who created this amazing reel. He has
Mm.
like 3.5 million followers.
Yeah.
He could easily charge a pet brand, tens of thousands of dollars to do something like that, and he did it out of the goodness of his own heart, and that helps create more awareness because we get more followers, we get more donations. And at the end of the day, it's really about educating people why it's so important to adopt a rescue animal. And that's really the mission here. So whereas we can, do 2,000 a year, and it's not nothing. It's all that awareness and content surrounding those missions. That's how you get people's attention today, you
That's
know?
right. That's so true.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love the wide reach that you guys are able to have. And then, well, this is a bit of a side quest, I guess, but like how do the animals typically react to the flights?
Good question.
Mhm.
So the loading of the animals is the most stressful part. That's where we kind of can assess if there'll be a flight risk. 99% of the time, they're perfectly fine to travel because they've already been vetted. Occasionally, there'll be an animal that's just gets spooked and it's too difficult to get them in the crate, or
Mm.
they're just very aggressive. But that's, one a year at most. These shelters do a great job at assessing the behavior and determining which animals are going to be the most adoptable to send to their forever home. When we load them in the crates in the plane, they're very timid, as you can expect. They've never been on a plane before. But once we start the engine, the vibrations and the noise, and then when we climb through the altitudes, it's an unpressurized aircraft. So it's not like the jets you take when you're going on flights. But we do have a ceiling with the animals of 8,000 feet, which is typical even of a commercial jet that you would go on. But it makes them sleepy. It makes them tired. I mean, even
Mm.
humans, when you take
Mhm.
a flight for a long period of time, you do get tired because there's less oxygen.
Yeah.
Um, so they just go to sleep. And then when we arrive at our destination, when we descend, they start to perk up and bark and stuff like that. And we open up the cabin, we pull all the crates out. And then sometimes we have to coax them out of the crate, but they know that they're going to a better place. And, you know, I love to see that journey from getting them in the plane to taking them out. And even better is when they're adopted, seeing the before and after pictures and hearing all the adopters say how great the animal is. And that's what keeps me going. All these stories, the countless stories of the animals that we saved and how they become integral in the family and the home. And many people tell us that the animals end up saving them.
Mm.
So, you think about the senior community and how loneliness is an epidemic, and the cats are a great companion for these seniors and people aging in place. And a lot of our donors I speak to them, they're lonely, but their animals are the only ones that are giving them constant companionship. So that's
Absolutely.
really important. And then I have four boys, 9 and under, and a 90-pound shepherd that I rescued. So I could tell you from experience how the interactions with my kids and the dog is a really beautiful thing to witness, especially because she's been with us since my first son is born.
Hmm.
And my oldest son, Jack, is now 9, and my youngest son, Tim, is 5. And it's amazing to see how my dog interacts with the two of them. So my oldest son, Jack, if he gets a little rough with her, she growls at him, and
Hmm.
she's basically saying, "You should know better." But
That's
my
cool.
youngest son, Tim, 5, he like pokes her eyes and pulls her ears. She does nothing. So
Yeah.
because she's seen the birth of four boys, and seen them grow up to some degree. So dogs are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I know shepherds are very intelligent, but um, so lots of stories of families telling us how great these animals are, and that's what really keeps me going at the end of the day. Nobody gets involved in this work for the money, I can tell you that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's very fulfilling and rewarding. It gives me a sense of purpose to be able to wake up every day and do this work. I mean, look, it's 4:15 on a Friday, and I'm talking to you.
I
So
know.
most people are like, "All right, I want to get out of here. 45
Yeah.
minutes to go."
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yes. And I deeply appreciate that commitment.
no, sure, of
Um,
course.
well, and it's awesome that you get to have the follow-up stories and get to see some of the fruits of your labor. So that's really awesome. I'm glad you brought up your family because, I know in many conversations that I've had with people this year in this work that it's work that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy. And so I'm wondering, how are you balancing your time and your energy?
I mean, let me know when you find balance, because I don't know what that is. A lot of people ask me that question, be a father of four young boys, and we also take care of my father-in-law who's 90 years old. He owns the building we live in. This office is in a building he owns. So we're also managing the buildings. We have a very busy lifestyle. Self-care is really how I get through it, and it's not without illness and stress and fatigue. It's a constant battle to making sure I'm in tip-top shape because otherwise I'm not good to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing to realize in the animal welfare world is there's this mentality, especially in nonprofit animal welfare world, mentality is like save animals at all costs. And that's not always the best strategy because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to help our furry friends.
Mhm.
So what does that look like? What does that mean? Self-care is of utmost importance. I'm a big believer in a plant-based diet. I meditate. I work out a lot. Um, and I try to get good quality sleep. And I also realize that you can't get everything done in the day. You still have to stop to smell the roses. You have to enjoy whether it's a cup of coffee outside, not on your phone, taking walks without your phone. These things are amazing, powerful tools, but we need time to unplug and unwind. Um, and I'm a big believer in meditation because it's sort of like that reset button. They've done a lot of studies to suggest that meditation is as effective or better than like anti-anxiety drugs.
Mhm.
So that's something I incorporated into my self-care a few years ago, and now it's like eating, breathing, and sleeping. Um, I wish I discovered it sooner. So
Mhm.
um, and then after that, it's working on your relationships because we've been married 10 years and we have four kids. It's very easy to neglect each other. You become like roommates or just this partnership. You need to make time for your partner, whether it's date night or brunch, just do things that's just the two of you. That's really important. And then it's not about how much time you spend with your kids. It's more about being present and quality time. That really takes the load off being a parent, realizing that because it's too much pressure to spend all the moments when your kids are home with them. And that's not what they're looking for. So I try to reserve evenings and weekends for that. It's naturally the time I'm not working. So with the kids, I try to take them on walks. So we get some personal daddy time. They all want individual personal attention. That's the thing about having four kids. Because when we're all together, it's a bit much. So we divide and conquer. Oftentimes, I mean, my wife has this idea in her head about having this beautiful family trip, all of us together. It's not so realistic when the kids are so young. So we do a lot of dividing and conquering where she'll take two and go. We have another house upstate in Hudson Valley, New York. So she'll take two and I'll stay here with the other two. And it gives them a chance just to give some space. On the charitable front, I waited too long to hire employees.
Mm.
I had this idea of keeping the overhead low and doing everything myself. It doesn't work. Um, you end up burning out. it's not worth it. Charities are put under a microscope. It's the unfortunate thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it would be interesting if charities could operate like a for-profit. Yeah, so with the charitable world, I think it's important to have a good team that's got your back. And just recognizing that you can't save all the animals. We're playing our small part in providing transportation services,
Hmm.
but we're not lobbying politicians. We're not getting involved in spaying and neutering. We don't have a physical space where we house the animals, and that's a good thing because we've had people wanting to donate land to us
Okay.
and, take in the animals for a period of time. And that's a whole nother ball of wax. So you can't be everything to everyone. Our niche is what's working. So we're going to continue to supercharge that and enable these shelters to do what they do best. And they don't excel at transportation. It's a stress point, a pain point for them. So that's the real opportunity. Being the entrepreneur, I see that as the niche. There are a few of us doing this, but it's not competition. We're all doing it for the same reason. And I'm friendly with the other groups, and that's the nice thing about the nonprofit world. It's nobody's getting paid to do this, so it's nice to trade information
Yeah.
and you know figure out ways where we can help each other out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess I
Yeah.
was curious about that, like how much collaboration goes on between you and other transport organizations and
Yeah, I mean, not so much collaboration per
hmm.
se, but
Hmm.
we all have our sort of areas
Okay.
that we like. We're a top three. We're basically three aviation organizations doing this that I would say are really active. It's Wings of Rescue, Dog is my co-pilot, and Pilots to Rescue. Those are the three that I would put, in terms of various metrics. Um, so Wings of Rescue, they charter all their aircraft. So they're doing way more volume. They've moved like 84,000 animals, and it's
I've seen,
great.
yeah, I've seen their
This,
content. Lots and lots of animals.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't charter anything. We own our own plane. We operate. It's a lot smaller. It's not to say that we won't one day. I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty of animals to be rescued. It's just a different business model.
Yeah.
And then there's Dog as my co-pilot. They own three planes. They seem to be more West Coast focused,
Hmm.
which is great. West Coast needs help too. So I would say our future strategic plan is more of a hybrid model. We recognize how aviation is an awesome tool, but it's really not financially viable to move a lot of animals. Ground transport is more reasonable,
Hmm.
but the planes are great. They're great after disasters. They're great for animals that can't endure such a drive. Um, so there's definitely great use case for aviation. I just think you have to be careful how much money you spend on those resources. And that's one of the things that a lot of charities don't think about is how you can sustain your organization. Um, you don't need to spend every dollar that comes in. That's a common misconception. You really need to plan for the future because the anything can happen, and you need to have healthy reserves. I mean, that's the business person in me, looking at all aspects. We focus a lot on fundraising and marketing, and that's what fuels our planes. That's what fuels the vans. So, talk about you know, how we could stay resilient or keep this going, and planning for the worst and hoping for the best
Yeah.
is a good strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably save some aches and pains in the future.
Hmm.
Thank you for bringing up resilience. You're giving me some nice tee ups here. So I guess
Yeah.
in your own words, how do you define resilience?
I would say resilience is no matter what comes into your space, you're able to deal with it powerfully and effectively
Hmm.
and be able to address things and move on. It's when you get in your head too much and linger on thoughts about things that are out of your control, it really zaps you of your energy that could be used for more creative purposes and more productive purposes. So it's not easy to separate emotion from action. But think about how much time we spend perseverating over things, making choices, wondering, did you do the right thing? Um, you always have a choice. There is a difference between decisions and choices. Decision is like the root is decide. It's like same as suicide. It's like cutting off any other options. Well, if that's not the case, you have a choice. You always have a choice. And if you didn't make the right choice, make a different choice next time. And that sort of choice distinction is very helpful because people feel like they often paint themselves in a corner, like they have no choice. You always have a choice. So yeah, I mean, I think resilience is being able to powerfully choose no matter what comes into your space.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that distinction between decision and choice. Well said. And yes, that rumination, perseveration really can be an energy suck. And like I also appreciate the emphasis on, it impairing our ability to be creative and good problem solvers ultimately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And positivity comes into play, manifest positivity. If you don't like how your day went, get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. We get to hit the reset button a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Um, what emotional impact does this work have on you, the good and the bad?
The good I mentioned before, we're saving lives. It's not just the animals we're saving people's lives too when they adopt them. Um, so that's a good emotion. That's the boost, the motivation to keep doing what we're doing. I love aviation. Of course, I still get to fly the plane, not as much as I used to because I'm busy running the organization, but I love the aviation aspect of it because it's sort of this elusive thing. I mean, you took a discovery flight, but most people have no clue what
Mhm.
it would take to become a pilot or that if they even have access to that. Um, so I love that point. I also like mentoring the younger pilots. So that gives me great joy to be the elder pilot, the mentor pilot, and help them with their piloting and aviation. Um, the bad, animal welfare. There's a lot of people in the space that have huge hearts, but they're also often pulling out their hair trying to figure out how to save them all. Some animals are not worth saving. I mean, it's extremely difficult to determine that, but you have to focus on the most adoptable animals. Veterinary costs have become so high in that you have to make some tough choices. So I've seen some people make some poor choices when it comes to which animals they choose to save. And I feel like the money could have been better spent on animals that are more adoptable. Um, so that's disheartening just because they're euthanizing so many animals in this country still.
Yeah.
So we really need to focus on which are the most adoptable. And sometimes it gets frustrating. So,
Yeah.
um, but again, I'm looking at this from the outside perspective because we're a transportation company at the end of the day. We get the ability to choose which partners we want to work with
Hmm.
and which animals we want to transport. So we're often saying no quite a bit.
Okay.
We say no to international transports
Okay.
because we have so many animals domestically that
Yeah.
need to be adopted. So if it's golden retrievers in Turkey, that's great, but the cost and the logistics to bring them into this country is such that it's really not fair to euthanize an animal locally in the US to, to bring in golden retrievers from Turkey. So things like that, um, that we just say no to, plus our plane, we can't go to Turkey.
Sure.
So, um, but yeah, it's mostly good. This is very exciting work and I have great teammates and I really can't complain.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess it's the desire to want to scale and
Hmm.
provide this service to as many organizations that we can to help them out. That's the overwhelming sense of joy and the passion and excitement. That's the goal. The goal is to be
Absolutely.
nationwide and provide these services free of charge to all these wonderful organizations
Absolutely.
that are doing life-saving work.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you have a particular mission or a particular story of an animal or animals that have stayed with you?
Absolutely. There's two in particular. One was a dog that had cerebral palsy. Its name was
Hmm.
Jelly. And I just remember transporting this animal. It really didn't have good use of its hind legs, so I had to pick it up and carry it everywhere, and it weighed like 80 pounds. Um, and what was very uplifting is that there was a family in New Jersey that fostered the dog. It was a special needs dog, and I think they ended up adopting
Mm,
him. And that was the first time I got to witness the power of compassion and the fact that people would look after this animal that had this debilitating disease. I don't know if we would do that necessarily for our human folk, our human,
mhm.
our companions. So it takes a special person to do something like that. And the other animals, Surf, which was a puppy that was born blind, and it didn't know that it was blind. Um, how could it?
Yeah.
So it was just amazing. And all the tripods and animals that have been abused, missing eyes, those ones stand out the most because they just move on. They just move on. We talked about it
Mhm.
earlier about resilience. Animals are the ultimate execution of resilience because no matter what happens to them, they keep dishing out love. Um, and they go about their lives as if nothing's wrong. I mean, we've all seen those tripods and you're like, you melt, but it's no different than when it had four legs. It still will lick your face and jump up and chase you or whatnot. So, as I said before, we can learn a lot from our human friends. I mean, think about all the people that are disabled and how they're treated, or
Mhm.
people that are less fortunate. Um, you know, so that it's a great example of how we can treat those people when you come across an animal that's less fortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They can teach us a lot about compassion,
Mhm.
resilience, mindfulness, right? Just being present. So, absolutely.
That's right.
Where do you feel like your resiliency comes from? Like, do you feel like it's just been in you, or do you feel like it's something you've cultivated over the years?
Uh, I've always been pretty resilient. I'm the younger brother. I don't know if that's a younger brother trait, but my older brother had a difficult childhood growing up, and I think I didn't get as much attention, so it forced me to be a little bit more independent,
Mhm.
um, and emotionally independent, because mommy and daddy were tied up with my older brother. So I think some of it comes from that. My parents got divorced when I was 19. Probably that some came from that.
Yeah.
Most recently, in the last uh, 4 or 5 years, lost my mother, my mother-in-law, my stepmother, my grandmothers. So I have a lot of experience with loss over the last 5 years, not to mention COVID,
Yeah.
having a transition from the corporate world. After having so many negative things happen, and going through that, it tends to make you more resilient. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It really is true. So struggle is part of life. Bad things are going to happen, but it's what you do on the other side. It's how you pick yourself up. Um, and having so many kids makes you hyper focused with the time
Mhm.
that you have. When I was single, didn't have any kids, I waste a ton of time. Procrastination, lots of TV, drinking, partying. I mean, it's part of growing up, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
there is something to be said for settling down and focusing your energy and attention into things that are worth investing in. So
Mhm.
this is obviously the charity is one of those things. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love your perspective on things.
Mm.
Um, Now you mentioned not bringing on people sooner and how maybe that led to some burnout. And I'm curious, like, are you one to feel burnt out now, or do you notice when you're kind of getting to a place where you do really need to hone in on the self-care, and how do you know that you're in that place?
When things tend to get overwhelming for me, that's when I realize I need to dial it back. I had a tough couple of years health wise,
Mhm.
getting sick all the time. And that's an indication that I'm not, 20 years old anymore and I need to take better care of myself. So I'm hypersensitive, hyper aware when things get overwhelming because if I don't dial it back, it's going to end up me it's going to get sick or bad sleep. Um, so I'm getting wiser, better at recognizing those signs. Um, So yeah, I think that just comes with wisdom and age. And,
Mhm.
you know, I don't so much believe in that when it comes to like exercise. A lot of people, like if something is achy or it hurts, they really just need to stress and rest a little bit, stretch as much as they can. But I don't think you necessarily need to dial it back on the activity. And I see, Ironman triathlons in their 60s and 70s.
Yes,
My own father-in-law, who's 90, he ran marathons and biked and all that stuff. So, and he's still walking around even with a bad knee. It's when you stop moving and you end up like in a wheelchair and getting all these sicknesses. So, um, but you have to take care. What's often neglected and what is the root of a lot of illnesses and problems is this sponge in your head.
yeah,
That'll get you in trouble every time. So,
yeah,
and mental health in this country is often overlooked. I
mhm,
think we're only starting to realize how important it is, how overlooked it is, and it's had a stigma in the past. Certainly in aviation,
mm,
aviation
yes,
is very behind. Like I can tell you that if you want to go take any kind of psych meds, you automatically grounded for like a year.
yeah,
So many people don't even address it. They just continue on, and that's a big problem. So
exactly.
I know the FAA is taking a closer look at that, and they're giving a little bit more leniency.
Mhm.
We've all heard about the countless examples of pilots that probably needed to have some psych evals or shouldn't be flying. So we want to avoid that also. But mental health is so important, and we're all just doing more than we ever have. It's just the immediacy of everything in this. I'm constantly telling myself, does someone have a gun to my head? No. Am I being chased by a bear? No. There, you don't need to do everything right away as fast as possible. There are rarely emergencies. So you got to remind yourself that, we're here to live and enjoy and be happy.
Exactly. Yes, you're speaking my language. That's something I'm often telling my own clients. Like, rarely is it so urgent that you have to be acting in on defense. So,
That's right. Turn your phone off at night.
yes, I know.
It's okay. Nobody's calling you at 3 in the morning telling you need to get out of your house.
Exactly, exactly. And I appreciate you also highlighting what pilots are also up against because yes, I am aware that that is an issue that many pilots do face, that they're not necessarily able to be honest or even approach care just because of the fear of not being able to do what they want to be doing.
That's right. If you check the wrong box on an aviation medical questionnaire, it can ground you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yes. Have you what is the name of the show? There was a show.
rehearsal,
Yes, did
rehearsal.
you watch that? Did
I
you watch it?
did. Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yes,
I
yes,
was blown away that he
yes,
went to that extent to prove a point. I think he was really a little bit at a disadvantage because people viewed him as a comic,
yeah,
but it definitely had a strong message. My
yes,
hat's off to him to, produce a whole season with HBO surrounding that topic.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fascinating. What do you feel like is something that people don't realize about what it takes to do the work that you're doing, to transport safely, whether it's, via, the vans or flight? Like, what do you think people may not understand about the work you're doing?
It requires a tremendous amount of preparedness and organization, and it's a logistical nightmare. It can be. You have to lots and lots of insurance. Um, we have plane insurance, we have van insurance, we have general liability insurance, and lots of insurance, and you have to basically stress test everything
Mm,
because we could have, God forbid, one accident and it could really take us down.
yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of insurance is like one claim and they drop you today.
Okay.
So um, the driving actually is way more dangerous and difficult than the flying
Okay.
because our pilots are volunteer and less likely to get into an aviation accident than on the ground. driving is the most dangerous thing we do every day.
Totally.
So I'm cognizant of that, especially if we're expecting to have a fleet of 10 vans. Um, I'm cognizant of that with the drivers and driver fatigue. I can fly 10 hours a day. I can't drive 10 hours a day. I was just
Mm.
reminded of that the other day that I'm a much better pilot than driver. Um, I drove for the first time at night in the rain, and these aging eyes, I was like, okay, now I get why old people don't feel comfortable driving at night in the rain. Just the halos and the lights, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be saying that, but I don't want to drive at night in the rain. It's just no good. But yeah, so that's the one thing with regards, we're a transportation company, and transport today it's not an easy game.
Hmm.
Um, it's very expensive. There's a lot of uh, places that could go wrong. I'm just happy that we're transporting animals and people's pets and not humans. Like in the terms of aviation world, we're able to do what we're doing because FAA views animals as property and
Hmm.
not souls. Like they
Hmm.
want to know how many souls are on board. I think it's wrong, right? Because we look at these animals as furry souls, but the FAA lets us do what we do because we're not carrying passengers. When you're carrying passengers, that's when insurance and the FAA gets concerned. We're
Mm.
carrying pets. Okay, it's just property you're temporarily transporting. So, and the same with the on the ground. I mean, when we're putting them in the vans and stuff like that, they don't complain. They're not distracting you. So at least we have that going for us.
That's that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry that the FAA would change those rules, or do you feel like those are pretty safe as far as
It's
souls?
interesting you mentioned that. We actually lobbied the FAA. We campaigned to change the public benefit rules.
Hmm.
So, um, anybody that has access to an aircraft that's a private pilot, they have to pay out of pocket to transport animals because the FAA doesn't view dogs and cats as enough of a public benefit to
Okay.
warrant reimbursement. So we cannot reimburse our pilots for anything because of
Mm.
that. So
Okay.
we lobbied them, and they just came back and said we don't view it as enough of a public benefit. So it's good and bad. It's good because of what I said earlier about how it's just property. It's bad because it'd be nice to reimburse these volunteer pilots when they're renting a plane or paying for fuel and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's a little bit different when it comes to people. It's a little bit more complicated, but there are more reimbursement opportunities when you're transporting people.
Hmm. And when you say reimbursement, where does the reimbursement come from? Like, how, what does that mean?
Well, it could come from our organization.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh, I
we
see.
could
Okay.
reimburse them for renting a plane, for the fuel. We
Got
can't
it.
do any of that. We can't do any of that.
Got it.
So um, that's the unfortunate part because there's a lot of pilots that want to help out, but it's expensive. I mean,
Mhm.
average plane today, it's going to cost you 150 to 300 an hour. And our missions could be 8, 10 hours a day. So it's a lot of money to spend. And if you own your own plane, forget it. But
Mm,
if you own your own plane, you're probably not looking for a reimbursement, to be quite honest. So, but a lot of pilots that own their own planes also don't want to put animals in it. So,
gotcha.
at the end of the day, we own and operate our own assets for that reason, because most people do not have 10 passenger aircraft to
Hmm.
transport animals.
Yeah.
They're for people, and
That's,
it's so expensive. Our plane was $2 million used,
mm,
you know,
wow.
and it costs $750 an hour to operate.
Yeah.
It's expensive. And that's not even considered that expensive. I mean, some of these private jets it blow
Oh,
your
sure.
mind how, yeah.
Yeah. My mind can't comprehend some of those those numbers at all, but
Well,
yeah.
the FAA makes it as such. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
apparently what's driving up the price of all this stuff. And,
Sure.
it's just very expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. So there must be some major fundraising that you guys have to keep up with.
Yes, fundraising is top of mind always. We were able to purchase that plane because of one wealthy donor.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of a bittersweet story. She started giving to us, and I called her. She gave me her phone number. And I said, Michael, I love what you do. I feel like I know you. If it's up to me, I would buy the plane for you, but you need to talk to my husband. He has all the money. So I get on the phone with her and her husband. he's grilling me, asking me tough but fair questions. And at the end of the call, I says, "Well, Michael, I'm not so into your cause, but clearly my wife is, but I'm prepared to donate $200,000." And I'm like, "Oh, terrific. That's great. That's a lot of money." Hang up the phone. She calls me back and apologizing. She's like, "I don't know why he's being so cheap. I'm gonna work on him and get some more money for you." She works on him. She says, "I was only able to get another 50,000, but I'm rooting for you. I hope you can buy this plane." Bittersweet story is 2 weeks later, he died.
Mm-hmm.
So now, of course, she inherits a lot of that money and she ended up buying the plane for us. So sad that he passed away, but
Yes,
to our benefit, she was able to purchase the plane, and we're eternally grateful for
absolutely.
for her contribution. I mean, that's the largest donation we ever received, $2 million. After that, the next largest donation was like 700K, also
Mhm.
from someone who passed and put us in their will. That's the crazy thing about this work is you don't know who you're going to touch. Um, and sometimes it comes from these unsung heroes that don't even present themselves, like those anonymous donors. Those are amazing. Like that also keeps me going, knowing that people they're going to put us in their wills and their trusts and, you know, make sure that they have sustaining donations. And once in a while we get wind of those and it means the world to us.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's also the people that donate $5, $10 because it does add up,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think even you just bringing up that concept of leaving a nonprofit as a beneficiary um, is something to good to put out there because sometimes people don't necessarily take that into consideration. But if there's a cause you really love and care about, that's a nice way to kind of give back at some point.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to leave a legacy and this world a little better place. It's a beautiful thing
Yeah.
to be able to contribute some of your wealth to a cause that you're passionate about and also roll up your sleeves and personally, physically get involved because it's easy to write a check, but going down to your local shelter and offering to walk a dog,
Yeah.
you'll make such a difference in that dog's life. And if you could turn that into something you do once a week, it'll watch what also happens in your life when you start volunteering. It's beautiful. Um, I have countless blessings in my life that I can only attribute to this work that I do.
Mm.
You do manifest a lot of positivity and miracles in your life when you give back. Giving back is way better than receiving. I think everybody knows that. And if you don't believe it, try it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that sentiment, and you're really touching on the question of like if people wanted to get like involved in rescue in general, like how would you recommend they go about it? It sounds like volunteering is the first place to start, is what you're saying.
Physically go to your local shelter. Don't call because it's hard to get people on the phone. Just go there and make yourself indispensable. One of our best volunteers that we have was someone who was very persistent on getting involved and making them himself indispensable. So go down and volunteer for whatever they need, and you'll become a fixture in that facility and someone they can count and rely on. And that's the best way you can help out these shelters that are always lacking volunteers and help. And the animals need your love and compassion also. So yeah, that's the best way to get involved. It's never enough money. Like if you're not of means and you can't write these big checks, go down and get involved. It's more rewarding anyway.
Absolutely. And do you have advice for people who maybe have even been thinking about like transport, whether it's again via van or an
Hmm.
airplane? I if I could have my way, I would love to do something like you're doing, like get in that plane and go,
Hmm.
transport dogs. I don't think that'll probably happen for me, but that's okay.
You never
But
know.
you never know. But yeah, what advice would you give someone who wanted to maybe get involved with the transport
All,
segment?
all these shelters, these shelters need volunteers and transport. If you have a large vehicle and you're willing to drive, I'm sure they could use your help. I mean, it's the way a lot of these animals are moving. So, and they may even have their own. vehicle that you could
Hmm.
drive. So
Yeah.
if you like to go on road trips and save lives, it could be the volunteering opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would reach out and ask if they have a transport program
Hmm. Yeah.
and offer to help.
Yeah. And I should have asked this sooner, but it just popped up into my mind as we were talking about, you know, obviously you're on the East Coast side of things in New York. You pick up a lot of animals from the South. From your perception, as far as like why needs exist in certain areas higher than others, like do you have a take on that or an understanding of that?
Yeah, down south it's a more temperate climate, so you have more strays and feral cat populations, stuff like that, because it can survive in the wilderness because the temperatures are such that they can be outdoors. And typically there's just less spaying and neutering. We see a lot of hoarding and neglecting and abuse, especially in these largely rural areas in the middle of nowhere. People often will have a litter of puppies or kittens and then try to sell them,
Yeah.
and realize that nobody will buy them, and they throw them in the side of a ditch or in a dumpster behind a Petco. I mean, these are real examples.
Oh, yeah.
Um, the hoarding situation starts out good. They have huge hearts and they really want to help, and then they get in and over their heads and they can't take care of so many animals.
Yeah.
So it becomes a health hazard. So a lot of animal control gets into those kind of cases. A lot of education,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing goes hand in hand. Areas where there's less education, and poverty, it just gets overrun with animals. They don't have enough resources dedicated to housing those amount of animals, so they're forced to euthanize because the money's not there, the space isn't there. Nobody wants to euthanize animals. They're doing their job. I get to interact with some of these people. You know, it's they're constantly struggling with the
Mm-hmm.
situation. So when they get animals out, you could tell they're so relieved and elated that you could, at least help them out in that
Yeah.
short period of time. It's awful. I always said if dogs and cats could fly, we wouldn't have this problem. We're not rounding up birds and euthanizing them.
Yeah.
Um, Culturally, I think we can learn a lot from some other countries. I've traveled to India and Israel and Turkey, some of these other countries where the animals are just amongst the people, and they really just round up and euthanize the aggressive ones. And a lot of the local population takes care of them. They don't live as long because they're not getting like vaccines and vet
Sure.
treatments, stuff like that. But they have a life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's probably similar to kind of a homeless person. An animal and that's a stray.
Yeah.
But they don't euthanize nearly as many animals. I don't know why in this country we think that's a viable practice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I guess in New York City, still, I mean, I've been to Mumbai and I've walked down by the water and there's cats and dogs everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, it must be like a health thing, aggressive animal thing.
Right.
I'm sure we could look back in history what started all that. It probably has a lot to do with health,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the animal waste.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something to kind of chew on for a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. So, um, if people are new to you, if they're getting introduced to you via this podcast, um, how can they support Pilots to the Rescue?
well, if you want to support Pilots to Rescue, you can certainly make a donation, um, tax deductible donation, but also very powerful to share our story on social media. So you could repost a reel or share a post that you like, let people know why you believe in our organization and its mission. That's very helpful. Um, we're always looking for new receiving partners. So
Mhm.
if you know of a shelter that has space, even if they need particular animals, maybe they just want cats or puppies or dogs under 40 pounds or whatnot. If they have space, we're always looking for recipient shelters to transport to. So very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, those are kind of the top reason, donation, sharing on social media, recipient shelters.
Yeah.
We do have a transport board on our website. It's do it yourself, but if you're a pilot with access to an aircraft or you're a driver who's willing to drive, it happens on its own. But we're always pleasantly surprised when those success stories come through. There are smaller volume of animals. Sometimes there's just one dog or three cats or whatnot, but you can go there and you could post it, a rescue request, and then people receive a notification. It's a transport board. So
Okay.
I would invite people to sign up for that so you can receive a notification and offer up your piloting or driving skills.
Yeah, that's great to know. That's great to know. And like you said, there's no shortage of animals in need, but a shortage of places where you can take them to sometimes. So
Yeah, and
foster.
fostering is
Yes.
very, very important. Opening up your home and heart temporarily to an animal makes space in the shelters, and hopefully you become a foster failure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's great. Well, those are all good avenues to support the work you're doing, and so appreciate the work that you're doing in saving animals' lives, giving some of these shelters and rescues a little breath of relief as they get to free up space to put more animals in that space and find loving homes for these animals. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
And thanks for being on the podcast and taking time this evening. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for helping tell our story.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Well, thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to Michael Schneider of Pilots to the Rescue for sharing his story. If you were moved by this episode, like, subscribe, share with a friend, comment, and follow us on Instagram at animal.rescuehub. And until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.pause and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipause.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.